A warm greeting. Today is Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. Today, I was going to publish a video discussing the latest forecast from the University of Colorado. However, significant changes have emerged in the tropical outlook, particularly related to the newly designated Invest 90, which is a low-pressure system that continues to bring heavy rainfall to Florida. Additionally, the National Hurricane Center has marked the area south of Oaxaca and Chiapas in Mexico with development probabilities. This marks the beginning of several days of closely monitoring the waters in the eastern Pacific, the western Caribbean Sea, and the southern Gulf of Mexico, specifically the Bay of Campeche. We are starting to see the projections we have been discussing for several weeks materialize, where the arrival of a Madden-Julian oscillation is bringing a significant increase in moisture and low pressure. Gradually, we see the development of the Central American Gyre. Therefore, if you live in southern Mexico or Central America, it is crucial to watch this video, as intense rains are forecasted to affect this region over the next 7 days. This can cause floods and landslides in these areas. In the following image, we can see the two areas marked by the National Hurricane Center with the potential for cyclonic development. The first is associated with Invest 90 liters, which will soon begin to cross over the Florida peninsula. This disturbance will continue to bring heavy rain at least through the weekend. The National Hurricane Center has marked the area southeast of North Carolina and South Carolina, with a 20% chance of developing into a tropical depression, although this low-pressure system is expected to continue its trajectory northeast over open Atlantic waters without posing a threat to land. Similarly, a 20% chance of development has been marked for the area south of Oaxaca and Chiapas. Unlike 90, a low-pressure system could develop in this area, moving over southern Mexico and bringing significant rainfall. It could eventually also develop in the waters south of the Gulf of Mexico. First, let's talk about Invest 90. Take a look at this infrared satellite animation where we can clearly see the convection associated with the low pressure. In the last few hours, this system has become quite organized. Fortunately, there are strong shear winds of 40 knots moving from west to east, making the development probabilities before it moves over Florida extremely low. We can clearly see the organization of this low-pressure system in the visible satellite image, where the low pressure is located just west of Sarasota. The location of the low pressure in this area, combined with the strong shear winds blowing from the west, concentrates the heaviest rain over the Florida peninsula, where intense showers and flooding are reported in Sarasota and surrounding areas. Here are the additional rainfall projections for the next 5 days. In general, 4 to 5 inches of rain are expected in central and southern Florida, but for the southern and southwestern peninsula, over 10 inches of additional rain are anticipated over the next 5 days. We will continue to see new flooding events, and it is important for Florida residents to exercise great caution today and through the weekend. Once Invest 90 crosses over Florida, it will have some development potential in Atlantic waters between Bermuda and the eastern coast of the United States, as shown by the GFS model members. The trajectory is completely northeast without posing a threat to land. Now let's move to the eastern Pacific region, where we see significant cloudiness and heavy showers forming over much of Central America and southern Mexico. This area has been affected by rain for several days, and will continue for at least the next 7 days. Soon, I will show the total rainfall accumulations anticipated for parts of Central America and southern Mexico, where over 400 millimeters may fall in some regions this week and early next week. As projected last week, the National Hurricane Center has marked this area with a low probability of cyclonic development. Currently, they maintain a 20% chance of developing a tropical depression over the next 7 days. The development of a low-pressure system in this area will be quite slow and erratic, with some projections indicating it could eventually move north and approach the coast of Guerrero, Oaxaca, or Chiapas in Mexico. For this reason, here at Hurricane Info, we have activated a green alert for the states of Oaxaca and Chiapas due to the low probability that a tropical cyclone could approach this area. Although the probability remains low at the moment, it is important for residents along the coast to stay very attentive to bulletins over the next few days. Most likely, these alerts will need to be issued for other Mexican states, as the NOAA Climate Prediction Center has marked the entire area with a potential for cyclonic development between June 19th and 25th, particularly the southern Gulf of Mexico or the Bay of Campeche, with a 40% chance of developing a tropical depression in the next 7 to 10 days. This was precisely the expectation discussed in yesterday's video. Let's see what the global models show. But before that, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. Go to the bottom of the video, click the red subscribe button, and then click the bell to receive notifications when we upload new updates. Now let's look at the GFS model projection, where you can see the complex panorama, the development of the Central American Gyre, and the formation of several low-pressure systems either in the eastern Pacific waters, just east of the Yucatan Peninsula, or over the Bay of Campeche waters. In this animation, you can see that the GFS model develops a low-pressure system south of Oaxaca and Guerrero on Thursday morning. Eventually, this energy moves west and east of the Yucatan Peninsula. Remember, this erratic behavior is associated with a broader circulation dominating the region, known as the Central American Gyre. Also, note that on Friday afternoon, the GFS model develops a much more defined low-pressure system related to Invest 90 with the potential to form a short-lived tropical depression or tropical storm. During the weekend, the Invest 90 low-pressure system moves over the Atlantic, while the Central American Gyre continues amplifying and strengthening. By early next week, it could develop two low-pressure areas, one north of Honduras or east of Belize, and another in the Bay of Campeche. In this run, the GFS model consolidates a low-pressure system with development potential, possibly a tropical depression on Monday and Tuesday next week, eventually moving northwest towards the Veracruz region. Therefore, is important for residents from Tamaulipas to the Yucatan Peninsula and from Oaxaca to Chiapas to stay very attentive to the evolution of this forecast. Additionally, the European model shows a similar panorama, developing a low-pressure system between Tuesday and Wednesday south of Oaxaca and Chiapas. Eventually, it develops a well-defined low-pressure system between Thursday and Friday, with the potential to strengthen into a tropical depression. As we approach the weekend, the Central American Gyre amplifies and develops other low-pressure areas until it eventually consolidates a low-pressure system in the Bay of Campeche, moving northwest, potentially reaching Veracruz as a tropical depression or storm between Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Although this is a long-term forecast, we have started discussing it because there is considerable model consensus that at least one low-pressure system will form in this area, and conditions could allow for tropical cyclone development. For example, the German model shows low pressure either in the eastern Pacific waters or over the Bay of Campeche on Sunday afternoon. The UK model shows a potential tropical depression developing just west of Campeche and Yucatan. Also, the GFS ensemble members show some of them developing low pressure in the eastern Pacific, possibly a tropical depression, eventually moving over Mexico, possibly over Oaxaca or Chiapas, and then converging in the Bay of Campeche, where many develop a tropical cyclone moving towards Veracruz and Tamaulipas. Note that other members develop low pressure just east of Quintana Roo and the Yucatan Peninsula. As shown in this image, we cannot rule out development in the western Caribbean seawaters, while the European ensemble members indicate potential tropical depression development associated with the area marked by the National Hurricane Center. However, by the weekend, this energy is absorbed into the Bay of Campeche, where development and strengthening probabilities will be higher. Most models converge on a solution where the highest development probabilities will be in the southern Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. It is only a matter of days before the National Hurricane Center marks this area as an area of interest for cyclonic development, likely between Thursday and Friday this week, depending on model consistency. Therefore, we will see what happens in the coming days. Regardless of any cyclonic development, the most concerning is the anticipated extreme rainfall event for much of Central America and southern Mexico, including the states of Oaxaca, Tabasco, Chiapas, Campeche, Quintana Roo, and Yucatan, and the countries of Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Eventually, this flood risk will also include the states of Tamaulipas and Veracruz. Before I go, I wanted to show you the accumulated rainfall projections for the next 7 days. It is surprising that this model projects over 500 or 600 millimeters falling in parts of southern Guatemala, El Salvador, western Nicaragua, and northwest Costa Rica. For other places like Honduras, eastern Nicaragua, the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, and the states bordering the Bay of Campeche, 100 to 250 millimeters of accumulated rain is anticipated. This is definitely a significant rainfall event that can cause floods and landslides, so residents and visitors in these areas should prepare for this rainfall event. That's all for this update, but before I go, I invite you to consider becoming a member of my YouTube channel. If you are interested, go to the bottom of the video, click the blue join button. You can find the sponsorship plan there, where with a small monthly contribution you can support my project and receive some benefits. If interested, click the blue join button. Now, I sign off. Until the next video, over the next few days, I will continue creating content to keep you informed. Goodbye.